Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Taylor Combluzier, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities, Inc. Today's webinar focuses on Trillium Gold Mines, Inc., which is focused on making new and expanded high-grade gold discoveries at its properties in the Red Lake District. Today I have with me on the webinar Russell Starr, President, CEO, and Director at Trillium Gold. The format of today's webinar will be comprised of two parts. The first, in which Russell will provide an update on Trillium Gold, including an overview of the company's ongoing exploration work at its Red Lake District properties. And the second, we'll do a live Q&A session. So please send us your questions via the chat and we'll get to as many as we can. To start, we'll handle the disclosures and then get into the presentation. So for Trillium Gold, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I would direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the Trillium Gold corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. And we note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for Trillium Gold specific disclosures. So now I'll turn it over to Russell to update you on Trillium Gold and what investors have to look forward to with this company.
Thanks a lot, everyone who's attending. Obviously, a very, very intriguing situation in the markets. I think we're still stuck in the world where gold maybe remains a little bit out of favor, but we are all forward-looking here, I suspect, and seeing massive amounts of fiscal and monetary stimulus everywhere in the globe, which should in turn lead to much higher gold prices. And with that, I really think everybody should be paying attention to Trillium. You know, like if I was an investor and trying to find a company that I wanted to put my money into, I'd always look to about three key qualities. One is, what's the management team like? What's the technical team like? I think we have that in spades. Our technical team has over 150 years of Red Lake experience, predominantly production. They're excellent explorationists, but our goal and our stated goal is moving forward to become a relevant mid-tier. I don't think anyone has recently actually thought through that process outside of, the Kinross's, IAMGOLD's, Eldorado's, and arguably we're looking at a gold environment that could be substantially better than those that existed when those companies were created. I think it's time that management teams change things up in this space, and we're ones who are well capitalized, have an excellent technical management team, and will likely be doing so. We've accumulated a massive land package in Red Lake. We have the largest land package of anyone in the jurisdiction. And quite frankly, we have two very, very near-term production scenarios that are unfolding both at Newman Todd Rivard and also at our Gold Center property. And those are what I'm going to really focus on. For anyone who wants to know about Trillium and where we came from, this company was created and was trading at around $100 million market cap in 2010 to 2013. It was a joint venture 50-50 between ourselves and Red Star. The combined value of Newman Todd, which we now own 100% of, was $200 million in 2013. So I can already point you to a severe valuation gap that exists just on one of our assets. 55,000 meters were drilled between 2010 and 2013 on Newman Todd. 51% of those hit greater than 10 grams per ton. It's laden with high gold, and you can see from our recent press releases, the last one maybe a month and a half ago, we hit 7 of 15, over 100 grams per ton. This was in our first ever exploration program as this new team. And then more recently, we put out a press release, 5 out of 9 holes. We were targeting the very, very high grade veins that literally start at Rivard and enter into our Newman Todd structure. We didn't have our drill permit for Rivard at that time, and so we were trying to target the high grade VG in those veins, and we hit VG on 3 out of 5 drill holes, which is an exceptional feat. And this is all part of us trying to understand the structure better, because even though 55,000 meters was drilled before, they didn't really get to understanding the structural controls, or really mapping out a viable resource of any kind. And so, in this world, in this market, maybe we could put out a 43-101 today of 600,000 plus ounces, but that's not what the market's looking for. We want to embark on our own drill program. We're fully cashed up, as you can see from this slide, with a little over $8 million in the till right now. That was all raised institutionally. But that will allow us to drill between 40 and 60,000 meters on Newman Todd, Rivard, Gold Center, and then maybe the odd drill hole in some of our other exploration properties. The company is extremely well held, and it's got an enviable share structure. We only have fully diluted 52 million shares outstanding. Management and insiders own close to 40%. Retail, friendly parties in retail are also 50% of that retail holding, which is about 39% as well. And then the most recent financing was done almost exclusively to institutions at $1.70 with a half warrant somewhere around $2.60. So who is our technical team? You can see here they're led by Bill Patterson. To be perfectly blunt, I'm not going to spend forever on our board or our technical team. Those are things that you can look at in our presentation. Suffice it to say, as I mentioned, though, that under Bill's tutelage and guidance, there's over 150 years of experience in Red Lake, which is key. And quite frankly, Bill kind of knows everyone. It's a small jurisdiction, so it's great to have someone of his pedigree and relationship status in the area on board. We just brought on board Donna Yashimatsu for Vice President of Corp Dev and IR, ex of Franco-Nevada, another excellent pedigree. And you can see by our board that we've really upgraded our board since the Confederation days, particularly Christian Toth, who's a senior partner at Fasken, and then, of course, Bob Schaefer, who is very, very well known in the industry, was the past president of the PDAC, a key member of the Hunter Dickinson Group. So a really, really good team that we can execute on our strategy with. So this is the slide that kind of tells it all. Newman Todd, you can see located on this presentation, and Gold Center you can see as well. Predominantly, we will be drilling at Newman Todd Rivard and Gold Center. We don't have our permit yet for Gold Center, but Gold Center is one of those really intriguing situations. And the only other analogy I can draw is Gold Eagle back in 2008. And Gold Eagle had a property that was contiguous to the Campbell mine and had put about 200 drill holes into it. We don't have any drill holes into Gold Center. But after those 200 drill holes, Agnico did a financing in them, and then ultimately Goldcorp bought them out for $1.5 billion. We are getting zero value for Gold Center in our share structure, and it is literally adjacent to, and we believe, part of the Red Lake mine. I'm going to show you a slide a little bit later on to explain that to you, but it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to actually drill a project that could be the continuation of a 25 plus million ounce high grade gold mine, and that's what we have in Gold Center. We've added in some really exceptional exploration properties, as you can see, and the reason why we've done that is it's my experience, and keep in mind that I've been party to a takeover before in my days at Caden, and spent a lot of time on Bay Street, both on the sales, trading, and banking side. Majors want district opportunities. It's great, let's go in and buy 1 million ounces. There might be 2 there. We'll pay you for 1 million, and then we'll build it out to the 2. But also they want to be able to control an area or have a lot of exploration and district upside. It's with that in mind that we've been trying to put together effectively the belt that Great Bear sits on. It's a structure that you can see kind of as almost an arcing structure all the way up to the top right of the property. And in a perfect world, I'd be adding in properties right next to each other all the time. But the reality is this whole area, the Red Lake area, has been carved up into thousands of little companies. And while it's great and you can hope to drill something at a small company with a smaller land package, the reality is that unless you are sitting on top of 5 million ounces over a larger property package, it's unlikely that you're going to get taken out. And that's no insult or no judgment towards any of the other smaller companies. I'm just trying to build something along with the team that would make ourselves very, very amenable to a major, or quite frankly, as I mentioned earlier, our stated goal is to try to become a relevant mid-tier. And with that, you have to be chasing some production. And that's something we're very, very attuned to and constantly looking for. And that's still keeping in mind that Newman Todd and Gold Center are, in my opinion, near-term production targets. This slide just explains our land holdings. We are by far the largest landholder. I think it's a very, very smart strategy. I believe we're at the beginning of a very, very well-bid gold market. And I think that any of these acquisitions are going to pay off, and then some in the future, given where gold is going to. And this slide is to my mind, one of the ones that tells the entire story of what we're trying to do. Gold Center has effectively had no drilling on it. They've tested for Balmer volcanics down about 1 kilometer. We know the Balmer volcanics exist. That's the host rock for the high-grade Red Lake mineralization. But as you can see with Newman Todd and, Newman Todd to the southwest is actually Rivard, and Newman Todd to the northeast is the original Newman Todd structure. Neither of these have been drilled out to depth. All of that 55,000 meters of drilling, except for 1 or 2 holes, was within surface down to about 400 meters, and almost all of the material mines in the area go down 1 or 2 kilometers. So we have a massive opportunity. And you as potential investors or hopefully shareholders at some point also have that massive opportunity to invest in a company that not only can build ounces in the historical drilling that we're not getting paid for, but also for the exploration drilling down at depth. And I will show you a slide here. Let's see if I can get to it quickly. Here are some of the historical intercepts that I think you should all pay attention to. I don't need to read any of them. They're 32 of 7, 31 of 13. These are world-class intercepts historically. Here are some of our recent drill successes. 0.3 meters of 126, 4 of almost 16, 17. Again, very high grade. And like I said, we're just now getting the ability to drill into Rivard. But what I really wanted to show you was... sometimes here is Rivard. This is a spectacular situation, and I will get to the deep drilling success that the previous drillers had in a second. But Rivard is truly a Canadian success story, owned by the Rivard family for about 3 decades. They would walk around with augers and dynamite, and they would blast VG, which you can see at surface, quartz veins carrying VG. And then they would recover and pour that and sell it. Because of Bill and other members of our team's relationship with the Rivard family, we were able to pick it up. We just got the drill permit, and we're about to embark on at least a 6,000 meter drill program there. And I'm sure it's going to be quite a bit more once we get a chance to drill at depth and better understand what these veins are doing. And the analogy I always give people is, Rivard and their high-grade veins is the equivalent of like the #1 supermodel in the world, and Newman Todd and all of the historical intercepts and the size of the breccia body that carries a much wider interval of meaningful gold is like Usain Bolt or one of the world's strongest or fastest or best athletes. And you always want to wonder if those two got together, the #1 supermodel and the #1 fastest man or most powerful man or whatnot, what would those babies look like? And that's what we're going to be drilling here very, very shortly with our Newman Todd Rivard permits. It's going to be fantastic. It's people often ask me what's the most exciting. Is it Gold Center or Newman Todd Rivard? Quite frankly, I can't tell you which, because no one's really tested those veins at Rivard, and they clearly mineralize the Newman Todd structure in some shape or fashion. And then, of course, drilling the neighboring property to a historically gifted mine is fantastic as well. Here's the slide that I wanted to show you. You can see the surface to 400 meters, but our predecessor put a couple of holes down, and they hit greater than 10 grams per ton down about 1 kilometer in the Newman Todd structure. To me, that shows that not only are we open along strike, we're also open very, very importantly at depth. And that's how you can quickly build ounces. You could envisage some sort of an open pit scenario where eventually you go underground. And the thing you have to remember about these assets that we're accumulating, they're all close to mills that are running less than full capacity. So is this a scenario where we're going to spend $600–700 million to build our own mine? Absolutely not. We plan on building out resources, reserves, whatever we get to, and hopefully getting into a position where we can either toll mill, or quite frankly, someone takes us out and puts all of these ounces onto their leach pad and through their mill, or however they decide to recover it. Gold Center. Literally, a picture tells 1,000 words. Here it is. The bottom right-hand corner, I can tell you that Evolution is aggressively exploring for more gold. It's only about 250, 300 meters away from our property line, which you can see on this page. Yes, it would be very, very deep drilling, but in a perfect world, we can work something out with Evolution where maybe we're being allowed to drill from their underground workings. I don't know how that's going to go. I know everyone in the Red Lake area is friendly, and they haven't said yes or no. We obviously want to discuss that as an option. But again, from a shareholder perspective, having the ability to drill out the property next to the world famous Red Lake mine, I think it's 25.6 million ounces at greater than 15 grams per ton, is an absolutely massive opportunity for any shareholders. And so, it's funny, I get all these questions about, well, your market cap's 70, 80 million dollars, you seem overvalued. Well, the reality is that Newman Todd had a $200 million valuation in 2013 in a worse gold market. And Gold Center, like I said, the only historical analog that I can figure out is Gold Eagle, which sold for $1.5 billion. Now, clearly the market is less in favor with respect to gold currently, but I think that's going to change. And I think anyone who is long or part of our shareholder base is going to be very, very happy if that occurs. I'm not going to go on with all of our other exploration properties other than to tell you we will be running an AI program on them. Clearly, we're interested in seeing what all the structures we've accumulated will lead to. Leo is only 15 kilometers away from Great Bear. We believe that Leo might have some of the plumbing structures that are mineralizing some of the local area. And, BTU and Golden Goliath are just in between us, between Great Bear and ourselves. And then, of course, we sit along that same structure that historically has been viewed as a base metal structure. But, effectively, with the amount of money we have in the till, with our really, really tight share structure, with the technical team we have, back to my investment thesis, I think we have all of the keys that someone would want to see from an investment thesis perspective. Now all we need is a little bit more appreciation in gold, and quite frankly, an appreciation of the gold space from the investment community. And with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Red Cloud. I don't really need to go on any of the other structures, and I'll see if we can field questions.
Great. Thank you, Russell. So now we'll turn to the Q&A portion of the webinar. So just a reminder to everybody on the line that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. So to start off, maybe we could touch on some of your recent news that came out where you acquired a number of earlier stage projects, both in Red Lake and elsewhere in Ontario and Quebec.
Yep.
In prospective areas. I know you mentioned building up that district scale property package in Red Lake, but how do the other acquisitions fit into the corporate strategy?
Yeah, so the individual that we accumulated a lot of these properties from is kind of a legend in the area, and what had happened before this particular acquisition is that I was trying to buy properties from companies and paying, quite frankly, a little bit of a premium. So I went effectively directly to the source, and I just said to the gentleman, I was like, give me 8 of your best staked properties. And it just so happened that there was one in Larder Lake, which we already have a property in Larder Lake, so it actually fit our mantra a little bit, or quite well. And then clearly Swain and Satterley made a lot of sense because they still sit on that structure that we're trying to control, which is the Confederation Belt. But the Quebec properties weren't really core to what we're trying to do. And I know there's been some criticism of me with respect to picking up properties in Quebec that may not fit what we're doing. The reality is they were just too good, and the price was perfect for acquiring them. And so my suspicion is that we'll probably spin those Quebec properties out, and maybe we'd even contemplate spinning out the Larder Lake area, just because as you can see from this map, I don't have the other ones on it. We really are Red Lake focused. We would look at production outside of Red Lake just because production is not an easy thing to find. And if we happen to get lucky and find an amenable management team, we would only look at premier #1 tier jurisdictions. But yeah, I think the Quebec assets will do some early stage reconnaissance. They're clearly in an exceptionally good area. Surrounded by mines and companies that are actually doing quite well. So it was a very, very smart acquisition from a cash perspective, but I don't think it's going to be core to our strategy. Hope that answers your question.
Right. And I guess just following up on that, going forward, you're mainly looking at additional acquisitions in Red Lake, and as you said, focusing on that.
So yeah, look, we've got a mouthful and a half now. I don't see us doing anything other than some sort of very, very near-term production or pre-permitted, ready to go stuff, mergers, whatever. We've got a great balance sheet to execute on our current strategy in Red Lake. We've got great assets. Largest landholder in Red Lake. Literally every single property that we have has either historical mining or mine infrastructure very, very close to it. So these are all very, very smart closeology plays in a jurisdiction where effectively we can get to every one of them easily within a day. But the only exception, as I mentioned, we'd probably look at is if for some reason we could find some sort of a pre-production scenario, RTO, merger, takeout, where maybe the management team is tired and just wants to move on. But otherwise, this is purely a Red Lake focus, correct?
Okay. So maybe switching to some questions on the exploration now. Maybe you could just succinctly kind of give us what the approach to exploration is and kind of what your edge is in the Red Lake project.
Well, like I said, our edge is our technical team, 150 plus years of experience. And so, for example, one of the theses that we came up with looking at Newman Todd was, they were drilling from one specific orientation. We believe we should be drilling from the other orientation. Lo and behold, we drill one of our first, I think it was 4 holes. We drill from a 180-degree orientation. We step out and we hit a brand new structure, plus 100 gram per ton intercept. So what we're doing is we're taking all of that 55,000 meters of historical drilling and looking at it with brand new eyes. We've just recently brought on a very, very early stage adopter in the Leapfrog team, Andy Abramson, fantastic guy. He's currently ingesting with Leapfrog all of the historical data so that we'll have a much better understanding of where we need to go, how we need to go about doing it. He also happens to have a PhD in Archean geology, which doesn't hurt either. So it's the edge is countless years of experience in Red Lake, an understanding from a production perspective of what these structures look like. Because let's be honest, every junior's goal should be to get their resource or their exploration property to a position where it's being acquired or being put into production. I mean, that should be everyone's stated goal. And we just happen to have a huge advantage because Newman Todd, like I said, had a $200 million valuation, had 55,000 meters of drilling, and we can rely on that. And it's the only single hurdle that we had was actually getting our hands on all that data and putting it into Leapfrog. We had to level out the entire database, but we did it. We're working on it. We've got it all into Leapfrog, and we're now renewing different ways of approaching both extending intercepts and also finding new structures.
Perfect. And I guess maybe could you just, there's a few more questions, but maybe just before we get to them on the exploration front, could you just give us the quick summary on what drilling is underway and coming up this year and kind of by property, I guess?
Yeah, no, very, very important question. So it's basically a 60-day turnaround once you apply for your permit, especially in these assets because they're so close. Like Newman Todd is only 18 kilometers away from Bommerston, and Gold Center is literally in Bommerston and right next to the mine. So we applied for our Rivard permit quite a while ago. We just got it before the end of the year. So right now we have a drill turning at Newman Todd, and we will be starting our drill turning early this week, maybe today or tomorrow, at Rivard. And like I said, really for us, what's key is what are those high grade VG veins? And there is a video of me standing on them. I think it was Palisades that did it. But literally, you walk on that property when it's not snow covered, of course, and you see the veins, and you can see VG in these veins. It's crazy. And this was a family that had just walked around and effectively blasted the rock and acquired it. So, wow, like what a great opportunity from an early stage drill program opportunity. So we talked about. I think it was 30 to 40,000 meters. We've gotten a little bit more bold. We originally had said 25 to 35, but the gold market remains competitive and seems to be cooperating. So the vast majority of all of that drill program will be Newman Todd, Rivard, and Gold Center. And quite honestly, right now it would be mostly Newman Todd, and then over to Wolf Bay, and then obviously Gold Center. But it's hard to answer that question specifically right now, because what happens if we tag something really impressive at Gold Center? I think we almost immediately move another rig over there, and then quite frankly, gravitate towards Gold Center versus potentially Rivard. So I think you're better off looking at it as we're going to drill as much as almost any junior in the space, 40 to 60,000 meters. The only other one drilling more, I think, is Fury, and their market cap is triple what ours is, or at least 2.5 times. And so that's the opportunity in my view. It's Newman Todd is a well-known asset, in as much as there's gold everywhere. Like literally almost every second or third hole, you're hitting plus 10 gram per ton rock. That's crazy. That's an incredible hit rate. So I guess the best way to answer it is our understanding of Newman Todd is better than our understanding of Rivard or Gold Center right now, and hence we'd be focusing on that for the majority of the drilling. But that clearly is going to change and become iterative as we hopefully hit really high grade at Rivard, and then theoretically the same thing at Gold Center. And you should anticipate that drill permit at Gold Center mid-February is my best guess.
Perfect. So that knocked off one of the questions that was in the queue there on the Gold Center permit.
Got it.
So let's see what else is there. So yeah, clearly a fluid situation.
Yep.
You talked about the there's a big opportunity at depth at Newman Todd and
Yep.
property. Is some of that drilling targeted to below that 300 or 400 meters where the mineralization has been defined at this point?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to be extending and testing the Newman Todd structure at depth. They historically hit it. So our comfort level with hitting it at depth is very, very high. But of course, it's funny. When I was pitching this to funds prior to the financing, a lot of them were like, well, show us again. And I'm like, well, like there's 55,000 meters of great intercepts. But everybody wants you to prove it up all again. So I guess we're just being, I don't know, maybe overtly punished for being the new management team and having to prove it all over. But the reality is we know it extends at depth. We know there's very high grade mineralization from surface down to about 400 meters, which, let's be honest, is almost every junior's dream scenario, because that leads you to a potential open pitable scenario. And when you're getting the grades you get up at Red Lake, that makes it a very, very economic opportunity, even underground. So look, we're doing a good job so far, in my opinion, maybe even great. It's more to do with the market not really fully appreciating what we are and what we've become. But that's my job to help do presentations such as this.
Right. Perfect. Kind of turning more towards the financial side. You mentioned you had a cash balance about $8 million.
Yep.
So that'll be enough to get you through 2021 and what you have planned, I imagine. Is that
yes?
Would you look to do a financing kind of at the end of next year?
No. So the best time to do a financing is when no one's expecting you to do a financing. The worst time to do a financing is when you're running out of money, because the market appreciates that. So we're a sophisticated management team. We appreciate markets probably better than some other management teams. If for whatever reason we were flying and the stock was $3, $4, or $5, I would be crazy not to try to take a little bit of money in. It wouldn't be a lot. And that should be the goal of every single junior, is finance when times are really, really good, not when they're really, really bad, because that's when your share price will get crushed, and you'll hedge funds find out you need money and they start shorting you and then bidding you on financings. It's just a position that I don't want to get into. Nothing against hedge funds. They serve a great purpose, and a lot of my friends that I used to cover run hedge funds. But from our perspective, we've got sufficient money to last us till the end of the year, but we're going to drill. We're going to hit, and if the market cooperates, we'll obviously look to tap the market and raise that cash balance at an appropriate time. It's definitely not here, and definitely not anywhere close to these prices. Like I said, it'd be $4 or $5 where we think about it. But that, I think, is the correct answer for you.
Okay. There's one question that's come in. I'll just read it as is, and
sure,
you can answer it or not. But are there any hold on the February share payments, first refusal, etc.?
February share payments. So the financing we did comes off in February. We did it with funds. My belief is they're long-term holders. There were no hedge funds in the deal. I think it's everyone's right, if they so choose, to sell. My hope is, with what we're about to embark on and the assets we have and what we're drilling, that people would be buying rather than selling. Our stock has performed quite well recently, but like every other company, this has been a punishing market, other than maybe that brief window in the summer where literally we got up to $2.70, which was kind of crazy. So that hold on that paper is coming off. I don't believe you're going to see any of it coming into the market. And quite frankly, of all the other financings we've done, we've managed to ingest anything that came at us, and B, to perform quite well, just because our shareholders are so strong. I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure.
Okay. And just another one, kind of more on the property side. Is there any road access to Western Bear and the Sydney Lake properties?
Everywhere. We are gifted and graced with being very accessible on all of our projects. A lot of that has to do with how gifted Red Lake is with all of their projects, and having mining roads and forestry roads and whatnot. To be perfectly blunt, Western Bear and Sydney Lake are probably not, we're running early stage reconnaissance. If we see something really crazy and opportunistic there, we'd clearly focus on it. But we've got a lot of exploration properties, as I said, that we're going to run the AI program on to see what we have. Okay,
perfect. So it looks like we're running out of questions here. So maybe you could maybe just, I know this whole presentation, to me at least, it's been a big outline of what you're doing and what's to come, but
yep,
maybe you'd leave the investors with a couple thoughts, kind of on key catalysts or any thoughts about them.
Look, you build companies through the drill bit, and we have 40 to 60,000 meters of drilling and news to come. Now is not the time to be selling our company. It's the time to be buying it, in my opinion. We have a great management team and an exceptionally gifted technical team, and we're literally just embarking on the really fun part of what every investor should look for, and that is material discovery. And I think, in fact, I would say I'm very, very comfortable saying Newman Todd Rivard will be put into someone's mill somewhere. It's our job to get it to a level and continue to drill it to a point where any one of the producers in the area would step in. It's road accessible. It's close to Red Lake, and similarly, Gold Center is a driller's dream, right next to a world-class mine. So hopefully, I've convinced people that this is something that's at least of interest and to do more research on. And quite frankly, if I've done a better job than that, maybe you're even buying. But a 40 to 60,000 meter drill program for a company with an $80 million market cap is pretty exceptional.
Perfect. So with that, I think we'll wrap up. So I'd like to thank Russell from Trillium Gold for taking the time to host this webinar today with Red Cloud Securities. And thank you to everybody on the line for tuning in with us.
And thank you from everyone at Trillium as well. Thank you, Red Cloud.
Perfect. And just a reminder that our next webinar will feature Chalice Mining Wednesday, January 27th at 9 a.m. So, bye now.
Bye-bye.